Due to budget and time constraints, all the creativity has been removed from the Hell Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide Bumpers. Now welcome back to the Hell Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
Oh,
I like that.
I do. I like that one a lot. Okay, so can I? You guys know I am not above the occasional "I told you so."
We're aware.
Really? Have you? Because I could go through a list if you want, pretty easily. And one of those things that was coming up, not only around the Trump Mar-a-Lago search and seizure of government documents that Trump was, stashing away in I don't even want to call it a basement storage room. It wasn't. It was on this like 1/2 flight down from the main floor near the office where anybody could walk there, especially if Trump was out of town, because I don't know who they assign as far as Secret Service while he's not there, because they don't have him at all of his properties. And since it's not his actual home, I don't even know how that works.
I bet.
Because the Secret Service isn't now posted at all of his properties, right? That's ridiculous. The United States government and the U.S. taxpayer is not paying for Secret Service protection outside of his general person. He's not even a running candidate at the same time. Like anyways. All right, enough. I'm fine. But after the search warrant at Mar-a-Lago and the horrible attempt at treading water through the special master filing and all this stuff, which I told everybody would change nothing, is basically him just trying to reach over from the passenger seat and put his foot on the brake, which is not something that's sustainable in any way. That after they found a myriad of empty folders with the top secret and sometimes secured compartmental information on those folders, the obvious question is, where'd the stuff inside the folder get to? Where is it? Where'd it go?
Yeah.
And if it's
empty folders,
all those empty folders got emptied somehow. Now, obviously, from what we know about Donald Trump, he ate some of them. He folded them up in a fish delight, and he covered his tracks by burying it in the litter box.
Or he flushed that toilet 10, 12 times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all those complaints about toilets not flushing the way they used to makes a lot of sense when you think about
way more sense
about when you know this guy was trying to shove wads of regular printer paper down the toilet. I
can't imagine that working well at all.
No, Johnny, you and I, as musicians, as people who have worked in multiple venues, have seen our fair share of those "please don't put anything but toilet paper down the toilet" signs.
Please, yeah.
And
for good reason.
And somebody needs to tell Trump that means classified documents as well. Yeah. And now, granted, if he learns that lesson, there will be a Russian spy in scuba gear who will be out of a job. But that's something I think we all have to just, assume. I mean, considering the jobs report, which we will also get to, which is also going to trigger a rise in Fed rates, which is like that story, that unraveling is, that's huge. All right. Huge jobs numbers. Like, it's just huge. So this is from Raw Story, but I think it was actually in a report in, Rolling Stone. Holy moly, it says. Legal experts believe FBI inquiry into possible Trump Tower stash related to looming criminal case. There could be vast implications of a bombshell Rolling Stone magazine report published Friday, according to legal experts. The magazine reported the FBI agents have questioned witnesses about whether government documents could be located at Trump Tower and other properties owned by the former president. Excuse me one second. Of course they are. All right. The FBI, according to these sources, had also asked in recent months whether the ex-president had a habit of transporting classified documents from his Florida estate, Mar-a-Lago, to other Trump properties. Yes.
A habit?
Yes. Because Some people that he was selling access to those documents to had no problem coming to Mar-a-Lago. Others just couldn't make it down there, or might have had an open, I used to be buddies with Jeffrey Epstein warrant in Florida, so they had to do it in New York City or in New Jersey, right? Where they come disguised as a barrel of toxic waste. Oh my God. The feds specifically discussed both New York City and Bedminster locations with certain witnesses. I told you this, there is no way there is not going to be a search at Bedminster and at Trump Tower. There is no way.
That's going to be amazing.
A source said it was obvious they wanted to know if this went beyond just Mar-a-Lago. Of course it does. Part of the leak of the video of him taking boxes similar to the ones that were removed from Mar-a-Lago by the FBI and the NARA agents that went along with them was a lead up to, he was flying to Bedminster. He's been there for the last 3 months. He was living there while he was doing this deal with the Saudis, and they flew up there with boxes that looked similar to the ones in the storage. Oh my God, of course. Now, the problem they have is the Trump right now. I got news for you. Trump is under constant surveillance right now. Trump and his entire team, because they're not going to leave with that stuff in boxes anymore. They can't. They can't afford to. So they're going to bring it out. If they try to get rid of some of it, if they're shredding stuff and trying to bury it, they won't be able to put it out through the sewage, because somebody around him is going to go, they're checking the sewer. That's what they do. Or they're checking the trash. You can't just throw them away. Even whether they are or not, somebody's going to,
right.
In theory. Yeah, they'll have little fires maybe. He'll do a fireside chat and there'll be no wood in the fireplace. It'll all just be reams of paper. But there is going to have to be a search of Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower. And I got news for you. They're going to find stuff there, because some of this stuff, while he's shredding it and throwing it away and trying to get rid of it, some of it is too valuable, and the dude is broke. He's broke. He's running out of money And he
has to have forgotten all of his criming.
Well, he doesn't remember where he left stuff.
I'll record little ideas, and I'll go back to my folders and be like, oh God,
that was a good riff,
because there's a no-name demo that's just got the date on it.
Right.
And I'll just I thought about it, then I forgot thinking about it, and then crazy. Wow, look at that. So he's doing that with his crimey crimes.
Right, exactly. Holy moly, tweeted MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin. Former federal prosecutor Renata Mariotti said, the point of asking those questions would be to develop the probable cause needed to obtain search warrants of Trump Tower and Trump's Bedminster residence. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you, if I may, right before we go to break again, that I have been giving you, as Hal Sparks' beloved son of Chicago, stand-up comedian, actor, and fool spelled with an E, as George Carlin would put it, and musician, lead singer of Nerd Halen, the same level of legal analysis as former federal prosecutors and hired MSNBC legal analysts. The only difference is I said it months ago. You're welcome. Glad you could be here. If you like the show, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. I think I've earned my keep. I think I've earned your ear holes and your eyeballs by not messing with your time and using it wisely.
You talked me into it.
All right. Even Johnny Million's going to give us a thumbs up.
I'm on board.
By the way, twitch.tv/HalSparks. Don't forget, you can support the show by becoming a subscriber on Twitch. You can also gift memberships if you're already on there. And the first one's free, because if you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime. We'll be back right after this with commercials that help the station, which are good.
Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you
a dime. Ow!
Attention, attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yes, we are.
I went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Now, I suppose the next thing we should talk about, of course, before we get into the enormous news breaking out of Ukraine as well.
Yeah.
This morning is the enormous news breaking out of the United States in terms of the jobs report. Because, man, Shevitz, this is not good for Republicans. And they keep trying to make it that way. They really do. They really, really try. They're really trying to make more people getting hired bad for everything. Like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, 263,000 jobs in 1 month, non-farm payrolls, and short of the Dow Jones estimate of 275. The estimate amongst economists was 230. I love you, CNBC, but please go pound sand. The unemployment rate is, was 3.5%, down 0.2%, as the labor force participation rate edged lower, relating, by the way, to wages. Because people, there you go. Average hourly earnings rose 5% from a year ago, slightly below the estimate. It's up 5% from a year ago. When people, remember last year when they were hiring people and throwing bonuses at people because you couldn't get any people to show up for jobs, and everybody's like, we've got to stop all this UI because people aren't going to work anymore, and all the stories from Fox News about how the American worker is just too darn lazy. They won't show up anymore. People just want to be paid to stay home. Well, not so much, because what you're seeing is average hourly earnings rose 5%, which means that the cascading earnings upward when it comes to managerial, assistant managers, those kind of jobs. When you see an hourly wage rate go up 5%, you see the other wages go up with them. This is primarily what the Fed thinks it's fighting in terms of raising interest rates and not monetary supply, which we can talk about at any length. There's a ton of these folks that are, like the money printing, right? Oh, God, my money printing nonsense. And to those folks, real quick, I'd like to say, if there were too many dollars in circulation, A, you wouldn't have a liquidity crisis in U.S. dollars worldwide, and B, the value of the dollar wouldn't be near an all-time high. If you have a lot of something, it's not worth as much. Yeah? If something's hard to get and it's rare, the price goes up. Hence, by the way, there's another example I can give you. Supply shock. One of the reasons why things are expensive is getting the thing is expensive, not the thing itself. The price of eggs has not gone up. The price of getting eggs in some cases has gone up, meaning getting it out of the chicken, feeding the chicken, raising the chicken producing eggs, and the eggs being put into a carton and moved someplace, not the difficult part. That price point has not changed at all. There may be a little bit of wages in those factories to get people to come back, but that was a bonus, and that's worked its way out since last year. What the cost is the price of gas, getting it from there. And that is a manipulation point that foreign powers have been using against the United States to manipulate our electorate forever. And it turns out when it comes to the Republican Party and our participation in the fight for freedom worldwide, that the only real mistake it seems that Nazi Germany made was not being a primary oil and gas supplier at the time of their attack on Poland. If they had been that, and modern Republicans, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and all these folks, if this, all things being equal, except the parties involved, and that we were in 1930s parties, if the Russians were swapped out with the Nazis, the argument against going into World War II, and stopping the concentration camps, shutting down Auschwitz, protecting Britain, all those kind of things, The primary argument you would have heard across the board here amongst Republicans is and would have been, but gas prices. That's it. That is the argument they are making. The argument that they are making is that if we pay, which is what we're currently, if we pay I think just over a third of what people in London pay for gas, that's too much. We just have to let Russia murder wipe the Ukrainians off the face of the earth. That's what we have to do. I drive a big truck, and me driving this big truck and paying a reasonable fee for its for transporting. I don't know what they do. Most of them just drive their giant trucks to the mall. There's so many poser pickups in this country. Can we talk about that for a second? The poser pickup. The people who
drive a Dodge Ram.
Right. I drive because you guys know I drive a Toyota Rhinoceros. I have the FJ Cruiser, and I got it used. It was a year old, used in 2012, because I knew the world wasn't going to end. But if there were any earthquakes related to it, it was like a soft world ending. I wanted something with 4-wheel drive. But I also got it because I had a new child, and it's got suicide doors on it, which a kid can't open by themselves because the front doors have to be open for the back doors to open.
It's an odd way to name it.
Well, it's because they open into traffic. They open flat into traffic. That's what they used to call them. But they're ironically not, because you can't open them without the front doors being open. And when you've got a little kid and you don't know, I'm looking at this kid, and he looks like the kind of kid who will fiddle with knobs and handles and, levers and switches.
Kids fly out of cars all the time.
I did.
Yep.
Yeah. I was 3 years old. My dad I was in the back seat, and my dad turned a corner and I fell out of the car. Because I was holding on.
My friend's little sister twice.
I was holding on to the handle because my dad was, I thought my dad was driving fast. I guess I was 4. I don't really recall this, but my dad squealed to a stop, and I was sitting in a puddle. It was adorable. It was like a Disney cartoon, but I was alive and unscathed.
I wasn't there.
But I felt that's a true story. That is a true story. My dad will tell the story. He was like, crappy old 70s car. So anyway, I drive this Rhinoceros, and as somebody in a band, I carry amps in it. I use it for, I literally have a tub full of costume stuff that just for like ultimate jam night, that I will wear like 4 outfits in a show if we're doing some big extravagant thing. And then what's my singer's kit, this rolling thing that has my in-ears and other stuff in it. Like, I'm using it is the point. Meanwhile, I'm passing all the time back and forth from LA to here and all over the place. Empty pickup trucks. They're not full of like salvage stuff. You know what I do on weekends? I take my, yes, and there were no car seats back. Thank you on top for pointing that out. I put, there's nobody in those pickups I see that goes around and goes, you know what? There's a lot of giant garbage by the side of the road in our town. People dump washing machines and stuff, and we have a real dump. Yeah. So a couple of my buddies and I, we get together on Saturday and we have we go have brunch, fill ourselves up on pancakes and carbs, and then we go out and we throw this stuff in the back of my pickup truck because it shouldn't go unused. And we drive it to the dump and we throw it down, and we can sell it at the dump. We give it to the guy and he gives us basically how much brunch costs. It's great. We do it for our town, for our city. We do it for fun. We do it. No. Pristine pickup beds. MTG, pristine pickup bed. Ted Cruz, pristine. These things have never seen anything heavier than a bale of hay that they used for a photo shoot. And these folks are, and same thing with Don Jr. Don Jr. does the same thing. Don Jr. rents these things. If you want to go one step higher as a poser,
you rent a pickup.
Rent a pickup you don't need. that you're not going to use. Because even then, he's traveling around with his expensive rifles with, ironically religious messages in the hilt and crap like that. He's putting them in flight cases on private planes and then putting them behind the seat. He's getting one of those trucks that has an extended cabin for, it's like a 4-seater with the short bed, guaranteed. And he puts it in the back seat because he doesn't want his gun outside in a case. It might drizzle. So the fact that these folks use a rise in oil and gas prices, especially when this week the Saudis said they're going to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day to keep oil prices high in a fight with the West specifically meant to help Russia. Now, it won't, and it won't last. But that temporary cut, is so that they can jack up production around the holidays, because they know the Western world does a lot of driving around the holidays, and they know they will because there's so much extra inventory that Black Friday is going to be extraordinary this year. And so they're like, there's going to be huge Christmases, no matter what the Republicans and the Western media is telling you in terms of like, oh, dear God, the money. That's how it's going to work, because it's supply shock has ended. And the biggest collapse we've seen in costs has been in overseas transportation costs. They are going back to normal. Once that happens, inflation is effectively dead. The Fed's effect on this has actually moved us in a direction where international transportation costs have dropped back down to almost normal. And what the Fed isn't going to be able to do is get rid of these jobs, because, quite frankly, because of the draconian immigration policies of the Trump administration and the continuing vetting of immigrants who've come across, and the inability or the lack of necessity for asylum seekers to get a job right away, because it may be a temporary wait that they're going back to their country if everything settles, or if they just settle in and the Catholic Charities are taking care of them. They're not here to get a job and stay in the community. They're here to stay for a little while and then go back home. Unlike economic migrants, there are a lot of unfilled jobs. Think about Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago, we know famously, they hired undocumented workers illegally under the table so that they could, I suppose, pay them less and hold their what identification they have hostage. This jobs report, again, one of the things that everybody's saying is retail sales. We're talking about retail sales. We got to take a break, but I want to mention this before we go to break. Retail sales took a hit over the last couple of months because people were going out and doing things they had not. During pandemic, you could buy stuff. You could get things. In the United States, anyways, you could get a lot of stuff. It was expensive. But most people just, people were, doing, effectively virtual retail therapy. You could get stuff, but you couldn't go anywhere. So now that people are out, they're going places again. I've done 4 concerts in one weekend over just last weekend, and people were all over the place. Huge crowds. It was amazing. The streets are full of people going out, eating, seeing shows, that kind of stuff. And it's increasing with every month. And so leisure and hospitality, healthcare and business and professional services led sector gains. You know why that is? Is because people are hiring people who will act as hosts and hostesses, who are waiters, bartenders, ticket takers, merch people. All that stuff is coming back. Healthcare and business, because people are going back to getting their regular checkups and the like, which they couldn't possibly do during COVID because they didn't want to go someplace that would actually make them sicker. Now those things are opening back up. And business and professional services are getting back online because people are going back to offices, not as fast as, some expected. I don't know why they would, but people working in the business sector are now getting their teams back together, which increases the productivity of those teams. No matter how much people say virtual is the same as being in the office, it isn't. And returning back to the office is going to affect how much work they are getting done and how many people they're going to need to support the work being done. And paralegals, staff, reception people, all that stuff. That's what this is. This is life coming back online. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it. I'm going to have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the House Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the House Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Big Biden boom. Big Biden boom. Lilu Dallas multipass. Big Biden boom. Big bada bing boom. Big bada boom. Yeah. That's not half bad as a Bruce Willis impersonation. Yeah. But my voice is too deep right now from being stretched out from singing and talking all week. So it's a little lower than his. Glass. Anyways, so from the sector view of the jobs, let's take a look at this, because this is, again, you have to understand Fox News and Newsmax and OAN and RSBN and what I would call small media and small tech are busy attacking the United States all the time. They're attacking the unity of the states themselves and the American people for being stupid and weak and stupid. And from a sector view, leisure and hospitality led the gains. This is from Bloomberg, because unlike other streamers and radio folks, sometimes I actually tell my sources when I'm reading from an article, instead of just letting people assume that these are words I'm saying. It's a crazy thought. Some people might want to try it out there. Anyways, from a sector view, leisure and hospitality led the gains with an increase of 83,000 jobs, a rise that still left the industry 1.1 million jobs short of its February 2020 pre-pandemic level. So there's still room to grow. And this is with, like I said, look at Vegas this week. We had, dear God, a mass stabbing this week. I don't know if you heard about this, Johnny.
Yeah.
This guy attacked there are these women who dress as showgirls. They're not showgirls, but they dress as showgirls and hand out pamphlets on the street. And this guy attacked a couple of them, and then I believe he was killed in this. So there's what his motivation was, other than being crazy and evil and awful, is hard to understand until they work it out. But 8 people stabbed, two were killed, him and one of the people he stabbed, presumably the first. The second, and there were 3 critical, and then others who were partially injured, mostly from stopping him. The reason why 8 people were injured in that was because the street was relatively crowded, because even at over 100 degrees, the streets of Las Vegas are full of people, just like Times Square.
Yeah.
Anywhere the Republicans are telling you the city is dead and no one goes there, go there on the weekends and there will be people out brunching, being tourists, all that kind of stuff. So, and that's still not up to the level, because there's still a lot of people, and some of you might be listening to the sound of my voice right now, who are still tepid about going out, either for health reasons or just general concern about going back out in public after a couple of years. Some just because you like it. You discovered the world of Zoom work and binging and binge watching shows, and there you go. And there's a whole new season of Blacklist. We get it. But that said, 83,000 jobs added in leisure and hospitality. Elsewhere, healthcare added 60,000. Professional business services rose 46,000, and manufacturing contributed 22,000 new jobs. There were 20 in the United States of America. Think of all this new factory is going to open and provide 160 new jobs, 300 jobs. This one, the biggest numbers I've ever heard are 3,000 jobs. Over time, this factory will produce 3,000 jobs, right? Okay. Manufacturing in the United States of America added 22,000 jobs last month. and then construction, 19,000 jobs added when everyone is saying home construction's going through the floor and all that kind of stuff. Nonsense. Wholesale trade climbed 11,000. Wholesale trade, meaning that the shipping costs, because they've gone down, the people are back to making money in wholesale again that aren't just Walmart and Target and people that have their own, like giant corporations that have their own wholesale internal industry. They're buyers. And even they added jobs. Now, some of it to shuffle stuff around and move it elsewhere because inventories are through the roof right now because everybody is being spooked against spending by the news. So they're trying to kill consumer confidence before the midterms. That's the goal. They'll jack it up afterwards if they win. If they lose, and they will, they're going to say we're doomed and it's all over. But the shouting. So check this out. A drop of 25,000 in government jobs was a big contributor to the report missing expectations. 25,000 fewer jobs in government.
That's a lot.
Now, if there was a Republican president, do you think that the Republicans would be touting this as a bad thing? Or would they say, we are getting people out of...
You're shrinking government.
Yeah, we're shrinking the government, getting government jobs out of here, and people are moving to the private sector where they can really do the work that builds the country. Also on the negative side, financial activities and transportation warehousing both saw losses of 8,000 jobs. So this is a little off kilter because trucking lost 11,000 in some cases, but transportation gained in other areas. So trucking itself lost 11,000 jobs, and that's ancillary. It's not 11,000 truckers lost their jobs. But remember the big port jobs where they were just flooding people to those jobs in transportation? Well, after the ports have settled, if you notice, there's not big lines of ships. That talking point the Republicans had where, oh my God, we're going to have ships off of our ports forever and ever, and they're never going to work again. That talking point died a miserable death. Well, those folks have been diverted elsewhere. Those workers that were brought in to alleviate that problem, get trucks on their way. That was handled. So those folks go back to whatever they were doing when there wasn't an emergency in this area. Is that right? Does that sound reasonable to folks? That's that. Okay. Let's see. The report really just shows that the consumer and corporate side have been very resilient despite the headwinds of the Russia-Ukraine war, rising interest rates, and slowing housing market. It could add to the story of a soft landing for the economy that for a while seemed fairly elusive. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you that everyone who mocked the idea that the Fed was going to bring in a soft landing instead of crashing the economy and throwing it into a depression, which, by the way, everyone who makes all their money off the market wants you to believe. Anybody who lives simply off of dividends, anybody who lives off the stock market, anybody who runs a hedge fund or is a trader for a living or is in financial services or just around investment portfolios and no other way, not material production, not houses, none of that stuff. Those folks want you to think, if the Fed goes forward, it's going to crash the economy because it will crash their economy.
Yeah.
It will not crash the economy that the rest of us live in. And that's what the Fed seems to be focused on. I have my differences with the Fed, but that practically is where they're going. We've got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Big news in the next hour about what's going on in Ukraine. Huge news. Huge.
Yeah, I want to hear all about that.
Don't forget, vote.org. Make sure you're voting, even if you hate everything I stand for. If you're an American citizen, I want you to vote. We'll be back after this.